Croeso, welcome to this special podcast brought to you by KO Cymru, the online news platform dedicated to bringing you independent journalism and storytelling about Welsh boxing. It's the home of Welsh boxing news, say many people. Mainly myself, but still. Anyway, my name is Dewi Powell and the interview you're about to hear was first recorded 2 years ago. I spoke to former British, Commonwealth, European and World Champion Enzo Maccarinelli, one of the most loved figures on the fight scene in Wales, about the best story never told in Welsh boxing. Fans are familiar with Enzo's eventful career, but there's one chapter that had been left unsaid and everyone involved sworn to secrecy. For a long time, it looked like we'd find out what happened on Bryn and Jason's fishing trip before we found out what went on behind the scenes when Enzo fought Roy Jones Jr., the American legend briefly adopted by Russia, in December 2015 in Moscow. On the 7th anniversary of the fight, this interview has been re-released to lift the lid on an incredible sequence of events. Over the course of the next 40 minutes or so, Enzo opens up on how the unexpected fight came to be, what went through his mind in the 4 rounds that it lasted, and why he felt so lucky to get out of the country unscathed and back to sunny Swansea. Enzo, the greatest story never told in Welsh boxing is, in my opinion, your trip to Russia, December 2015. Lots of people know you went over there, you beat Roy Jones, but they don't know the finer details of that eventful trip. I want us to start at the very beginning and go through this thing chronologically because it's some story. So tell me about how the fight was first mentioned to you.
Right, I was in Cardiff. My wife, we were in a Cardiff town. We come back by the shopping centre by Leclerc Stadium and all the little bits, JD Sports and all that. And she decided to go in somewhere, and I said, I'm just going to sit in the car, I've had a text from her. So Frank phoned me, he said, look, you know, for Roy Jones, out in Russia, if you do fancy it. I said, yeah, of course I do, man. So that's pretty much where they went. I met him a couple of weeks later. I was at a show. I think Frank Buglioni was fighting Chudanov. I think Wales beat England with the last kick of the game or last try of the game in the Six Nations, or the World Cup, I think it was. And we had 4 doors. They asked Roy Jones, do you know much about Enzo? He said, I know he can punch, but that's about it. So that's where he was.
I know you're a boxing nerd, for want of a better term, and you would have known all about Roy Jones and his career. What were your emotions when you had that initial offer?
If I'm honest, not many people know this, but when I was in Vegas with Joe a few years before, I think it was Hart and Mayweather, and Roy Jones, unbelievable fighter, one of the best, but he was never my idol. I think he was too good to be my idol, if you know what I mean. I liked the in your face, blood and guts warriors, the Beretta, the Moraleses, Chavez, Gattis. They were my type, I think. But as a fighter, Roy Jones was one of the best, and so I get back to Vegas now. So we was in Vegas, and I tried to get a photo with him, and he obviously didn't know where I was. And I didn't want a photo of myself. It was one of the boxers, I probably remember, James Todd. He loved Roy Jones. So I told him, I'd have a photo and send it to James. And he blanked me. So the first thing I went through my mind when Frank offered me, I said, I'm gonna get this fucker back, man. Bit of car. So and I was mad. That was literally my first thought. But it was a bit of a thing where going in a ring with, albeit past his best, but still a legend.
So that stuck with you. The old cliche is be nice to people on the way up because you'll meet them again on the way down. Anyway, you'd been to Russia before, Enz, when you knocked out Alexander Kotlebey in less than a minute, I think, for the European title. That was in St. Petersburg 2010. Did that experience give you any insight to travelling to Russia? Because it's not something many Welsh or even British boxers have done.
Mate, I don't care. I don't care. Ring's a ring. And the story with Kotlebey was I got offered to go into the prize fight. I think Herbie Hyde was in there at the time. And Frank wanted me to do the prize fight. He said, this is dangerous. This quarter is supposed to be there, supposed to be a bit of a puncher. You're going out there, they're not picking you to win. I said, well, I understand that. He said, but, we're going to get more money for the prize fighter. I think it's an easier job for him. I said, Frank, European title, I'm going to Russia. He sort of tried to persuade me to do the prize fighter, and it was no chance. I'm going to Russia. I was going to fight Quarterback. Gets out there. They sort of put me in a nice hotel, but it was still a lot of smoke out there at the time. It was stinking and smoke in the hotel. Went to the medicals. I went to the press conference. Sorry, and I said, I think Mark Warner was with me and
Ron Pavitt, was it?
Yeah. You were with me, and they said, "Oh, be calm now." Press conference. I said, "Yeah." So I went ahead to the press conference. I said, "Yeah, he's good. He's strong." I said, "I'll knock him out first round." So he went, "No." He said, I said, "Trust me, I'll knock him out first round." He went, "He'll knock you out first round." I said, "No, he won't." I said, I'll knock him smart cold first round." So as I was leaving the press conference, Ron and Mark told me, they said, "Oh, Enz, you shouldn't be saying stuff like that." I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "I'll knock him out." So we went to the doctor, went to the weigh-in. They had a full medical out there, pretty much a full medical, not like you have. It's just a quick once over before you win the ring. They had the eye test, everything, so they done it all. They left me waiting behind for about 3 hours for the lift home from the weigh-in. So they must have thought I was starving, but obviously I never struggled with the weight. So guess the arena. Yes, we in the arena, and I think all the main fights all finished in the first round. And he come in the change room, the Russian promoter, and he seen me in the pad, and he went, "Oh my God!" He said, "Can't believe we've done this." So, as you know, I knocked him out first round.
For that fight, you had a presence that suggested that you, Carl Ince and Dean Powell, both of them in your corner, you three all knew something that many people in Russia didn't, probably because you didn't go into it in great form. So when your promoter Frank Warren called you about the Roy Jones fight, did you have that same feeling of knowing something that the other side didn't?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I'm at my most daily. Even though proper boxing fans probably knew I'd be a bit too much for Roy at that time, but I sort of, they picked me thinking I was finished. They picked me thinking I was being a light heavyweight for the last few years, and they just bossed Courtney Fry. He done a better job on Courtney Fry than I did, and I think it was all set up for him to win. And I remember at the weigh-in, I shook his hand and I said, "It's an honour to fight you tomorrow." I said, "But I will knock you out." And he laughed, and I said, "Trust me." I said, "I will knock you out." And I had that feeling all the way through that I was going to knock him out.
Did it seem too good to be true? I mean, in the sense that you get to fight an all-time great, you headline a big arena, but it was a very winnable fight, knowing what you knew.
It was mad. It was like we went out there like 8 weeks earlier. Me and Richard Maynard went to a press conference, and it was like early morning, traveling. I was wrecked at the press conference. I was wrecked, and we done the first press conference, and we had to go to the arena, and we were outside, and Roy gets picked up in a Rolls Royce, and we waited for our car. I swear to God, he picked me up in a 3-wheeler, and Rob would rely on me and Richard Maynard. So I see Richard Maynard's in the boot.
I bet you almost need yourself in the face in one of those.
Yeah, but again, it didn't bother me in the slightest. I know when these prima donnas never have been, never will be. And guess the arena, shows from the arena, and all the TV come in, all the camera crews, the papers, they all come in. Not one of them looked at me. Not one. No one asked me anything. Nothing at all. It was all right. We sat up on the conference table in the arena. It was like just I was there to get knocked out by Roy. That's all they were thinking. That's all they thought that was going to happen.
I remember there being rumblings at the time ends that the WBA world title was potentially going to be on the line. I think Vlad Hernov, the promoter, might have even announced it. Were you involved in any of those talks, and how much did you know about that situation?
I knew when I got to the press conference that Vlad, I took it with a pinch of salt. You know, I had boxed Cruiserweight for a long time, and you know, I did see how that was going to be happening. But you know, with the money out there in Russia and certain boxing organisations can get swayed. You never knew, but I took it with a pinch of salt, mate. It didn't bother me in the slightest.
Roy was 46 by the time you fought him, and I have a conflict in my feelings because, listen, we all know he wasn't what he used to be, but he wasn't beaten in 8 fights. He was a big betting favourite, and he had home advantage, as you just described there, with the backing of the promoters and the TV companies. You must be aware people almost try to begrudge you the win sometimes, and I know you like to wind them up and say it was a prime Roy Jones, but does it annoy you that lots of people forget the context of the situation at the time?
It's not that I forget the context. I don't know the context, mate. I think Roy was, you know, he still had fast hands. He still had that. He said some great things after me in the change room. You know, he said I couldn't believe how fast you were. I couldn't believe how strong you were. He said I gripped all the do. He said I'm strong. He said, and he said he would just shove me off. He said I'm not as fast as I used to be. He said I'm not as good as I used to be. He said but I'm still very fast. I'm still very good. And he said I've never fought anyone who switches head to body as easy as you do. So he says some great things to me after. And what I'd like to remind people is they asked me. I think a lot of people think that I asked him for some reason. You know, I went out and seeked him. They seeked me because they thought it was an easy fight. That's all it was to it. And you know, I was a world champion. I was big at that. I pretty much won everything. And I was a name. And you know, I was just there to make him look good. And I know he was doing a bit of sparring. I heard he dropped that Pudyashov, the Russian Hammer, a couple of times in sparring. So, you know, the levels of it were still there. But, you know, at the end of the day, mate, I knew what I was going to do. We had a plan. Well, I say we had a plan. Everyone knows my plan. I go straight at it and knock him out. And, but, you know, I was confident. I was strong. You know, I think I bust my hand a couple of weeks earlier as well. But I was still confident going in that.
And by that point, Dens, when that fight comes to you, you know all about boxing not being the fairest of sports. It was only 18 months before that you were doing really well against Jürgen Bremer for the light heavyweight WBA title. And your eye went. After that, your reward isn't another big fight. You get 2 wins against guys that are not on your level. And after 16 years in the sport, I imagine you were massively up for those fights. So when the Roy Jones fight comes up, there's no choice but to take it.
Yeah, and you know that's all I went in. You know, I knew when I fought Jürgen Bremer, you know, for the eye to go in the first round, and for me to still be, well, you know, I was budging him every time I sort of hit him. I just genuinely couldn't see him. I would let him hit me with his jab. And as soon as his jab landed, I throw straight back. That's the only way I knew where he was. But when we went to the press conference after, I remember Carly Sowland looked at me saying, "You go again." You know, I said, "Give me a coffee," and I said, "We'll go straight away." And Jürgen Bremer was there, and he said, "Look," he said, "I've never felt power like it. I've never ever experienced power like you've thrown." And he said he didn't even catch me clean. And I remember as soon as he said that, I knew they wouldn't give me another chance. I just knew. I said that was it. But when we come back, about a week later, I had a phone call off Andy Ayling saying that the Sutherlands wanted me to have my eye checked out, and if it's okay, they're going to sort the rematch. So I thought, oh, brilliant. He said, "Oh, yeah, this is perfect." This is gone. It went down the next day. Strangely enough, it just disappeared the next day. And I went up the maxi-facial unit, I had a scan, I had letters, yet nothing, no problem whatsoever. Fully fit to fight and things like that. So I thought, oh, it's back on. Just never hear nothing from them again. So I think it just opened my eye, was still buggered. And then they could say they offered me and they didn't get it.
To get the timeline right, Enzo, you fought Yuri Savina in October 2015. I've probably just butchered his name. He'd won 12 of 28 fights, and you stopped him in 5 rounds to get your 40th professional win. By then, was the Roy Jones fight already on the table for the following December? And if so, did you feel any extra pressure?
No, it's just it was literally they wanted me to have one fight first and then fight Roy Jones. So I knew what was happening. So we went up to Newport, and I fought this one of the most awkward fighters you'll ever meet. And as you know, I caught him with a body shot, finished him, caught him with 4 red shots. He gave up at one point, but the ref let him carry on. Got him out of the way, and then we just followed the camp for the Roy fight.
How were you treated when you arrived in Russia?
I can't lie. Gary couldn't come in the day, so Alex Spoozy Hughes come up with me, and good company. Got up to Russia. We went up there, talked to a nice hotel, really nice hotel, and just didn't try any fast ones. Didn't try anything stupid. I wouldn't let anyone buy me a drink or anything like that. I wouldn't take food off anyone. I'd make sure I have my own food and make sure that I'd just done things right. So I was still a bit, not on edge, but thinking they might be up to something.
And you don't want to take any risks in that situation.
Exactly, mate. It's like when we went to the fight, got to the fight, and it was bottles of water there, and they'd been open, so we brought our own water.
Yeah, I've got visions of Rocky 4 where like every move you made was followed, and Alex's Uncle Paulie.
He's brilliant. Alex is so funny, but Gary couldn't come out, and Alex had to take me on a pads. I'd never been on a pads with Alex before, and we done a little session in the morning, and he's very good on a pads. We clicked, and then we done it in the night, and I think they knew then. I remember looking at Vlad Hernov, and I remember his face changing when he seen me start rattling the combos off. Because when I obviously I hit hard, but when I got such a snap in my shots as well. When I hit pads, they really sounded as well. So I think they realised they'd made a bit of a mistake then.
Were you mindful not to show them too much, or did you want them to know?
No, just played about me and Alex, just getting used to each other, hit shots. At the end of the day, mate, what I've learned over the years is when someone fights me, they always fight different anyway. They're always concerned about the power. They're always concerned about our left hook. But I think not many people realise I hit just as hard with the right hand than I do with the left hook. It's just that I favour the left. So we just had the hands down. We rattled the shots out. We snapped the shots out, and just enjoyed ourselves. And it was mad. It was like I had such a round of cheer, a round of applause at the end. I give a t-shirt, one of my t-shirts off my top to this guy. He's a massive fan, and he just started crying in front of me. And I give someone else one of my old raps and things like that, and they were just crying, and they couldn't believe it. I'd never experienced something like that.
Alex told me that he was taking photos with people outside the ring, telling them that he was your trainer. Did you notice that?
Mate, he's brilliant. I did notice it. I was watching him as well. Any girl you see, he had a photo with.
But back on track. With the blessing of Vladimir Putin, Roy Jones was granted Russian citizenship, and like you've already described, they were all in on him as if he was still in his prime. From the outside looking in, it was a bit of a strange setup. Did it surprise you?
I don't know, mate. It's Roy Jones at the end of the day, and I don't know, they sort of believing that he was once what he was, and I think by sparring these boys out there and filling them in and looking good, they must have thought he was back to his best and things like that. And it was surreal. It was, to be honest, mate. It was like going to the press conferences and stuff like that. And I'm glad I had Alex there for a couple of days, and Gary come and the boys come, and it was just a good atmosphere. And we always said, I wish we'd have had a camera crew follow us because we would have had a right laugh.
Was there a specific point, Enz, where you thought the penny dropped with Roy and he realised you weren't in awe of him and you weren't there to make up the numbers? Because it sounds like it was quite tense at the weigh-in when you said what you said to him.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the pads with Alex. I think it was the way I conducted myself. I showed no fear. A lot of people, I won't fear anyone anyway. I never have, and I think they've seen that he's come here to win. He hasn't come here to, like I said, make up the numbers. He's come here to upset the apple cart, and I just couldn't wait. I just couldn't wait to get in the ring and share the chance of the legend. And like I said earlier, I'm at my best when people think that I'm not going to win. And when I think I'm not going to win, that's when I'm at my days. I knew I was going to win, but other people didn't. So that's me at my most dangerous. And even though he wasn't, I prepared for the best Roy Jones.
By this point, you had nearly 50 fights and you'd been a professional for a long time. I know you said earlier about the bottle caps being broken in the changing room. Was there anything else on fight night that was different, or was it just business as usual?
It was mad, it was, man, because we the night before, like I explained earlier, I had a bad hand. I bust my hand in sparring, so I had a pair of gloves made by Adidas, which were padded, and they were extra padded to look after my hand. But Gary was downstairs with Russ Amber, the owner of Rival.
Yeah.
And Gary phones me up. He said, "Enzo, you better come down and try these gloves on." So I said, "Oh, God, I got to wear mine. I got to protect my hands." So he said, "Enzo, please come down here." I said, "God, I can't wear it." He said, "Enzo, just come down." I said, "Right, all right, coach." I said, "Then come down." So I come down, I put the glove on, and I remember putting it on and feeling how tight it was, and I tapped myself in the jaw. And I remember thinking, Jesus, it's like a breeze block. So I looked at Gary and said, "Yeah, right, we'll have these." So as I'm walking up the stairs, Gary texted me, "Silly people wanted you to wear them gloves." He said, "Oh my God, they were like breeze blocks." So, that was the first time where they were ordering me to do stuff, which I've never had before.
Yeah.
Then the boys went to the arena because I think Zach and did Alex fight?
Yeah, both Alex Hughes and Zach Davis fought and won on the undercard.
Yeah, I think they went over early to fight, and I sort of went an hour and a half later. But I got picked up outside, and he took me all these back roads up industrial sites, industrial parks. And I remember thinking, "Oh my God, what's going to happen by here?" Like I did shit myself for a minute. Like,
and you've watched enough episodes of The Sopranos to let your imagination run away with you.
I thought it was that guy who killed 30 Czechoslovakians. So I got the arena, and apart from that, no, I just noticed the water, but we had a water anyway with us. And it was business as usual. I started wrapping up at a certain time. I started moving around, having a laugh with the boys. I'm one of them. I don't get too uptight until the actual gloves go on. When the gloves go on, it's like a switch. It tells me I'm ready yet.
So the fight starts, and you're on the front foot. Roy is prodding and poking. He's got his hands by his waist, trying to find the gloves. What do you remember looking back at those early exchanges?
To be honest, mate, it was all surreal. Even from the ring walk where they give me bagpipes and played "God Save the Queen" and stuff like that. It was just mad. So I knew what I wanted to do. I knew Roy was going to try and sort of use his skills and use his experience, and I wouldn't let him. It's going to be hard to keep me up from just using experience. So I just jumped on him. I still felt he had a fair whack in his shots. Like, he caught me with a couple of shots. I remember thinking, yeah, he'd still bang. And I just put it on him, and I used that jab to get in. I was throwing clusters. I knew he couldn't keep up with the pace. I knew he couldn't keep up with the pressure I was putting on him. I started whacking into the body, and every time I caught him half clean, I could hear the wince. I could hear the difference in his body, if you know what I mean. He sort of sunk back, and where he was about to attack, I catch him, and then he'd sort of go in his shell just that little bit. Then he tried to have a cluster. I just felt from the start I was just too strong for him. He still had fast hands. He probably still had fast hands like me, but I was just too strong, too much pressure, and didn't let him use any of his tricks. You
touched on something I was going to ask about then. As early as the first round, you were going to the body, and you landed quite a few tasty left hooks to the body. I'd heard rumours years and years ago that Roy's knees weren't great. Was the thought to go to the body to take away his legs?
No, mate. It just I just know that's always been my shot from a young age. That body shot has always been with me. I remember dropping my first man at the age of 13 with a body shot. You know, it's always been one of my favourite shots, and it's a shot that can debilitate you and just render you helpless if you catch it right, and just takes the wind out of you, just chops you down, and just sucks that air out of you bit by bit. Even if it's not one that puts you to the floor, it'll just suck that little bit of wind out of you and make you a little bit hesitant and help make you need a breather and stuff like that. So that was always my plan. If I see the body shot, I'll throw it.
I'm sat here nodding and agreeing like I know, but I don't know, and I'm glad I don't after that description. I know you've got balls of steel ends, and you needed them in the second round. I don't even know if you noticed or will remember that much, but you took quite a big low blow, and you shook it off very quickly and seemed to give him one back.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember him catching me. I know what I made the frigging make a mountain out of a molehill, and he did catch me and it did hurt, and it won't one bring me to my knees and stuff like that. And I remember backing him up, and I think I slipped one in. I slipped one in as well. So, let him know. I want to play dirty. I'll play dirty as well. Like,
did you take that as a sign that you were getting to him?
I don't know whether he done it on purpose. I probably didn't think at the time. Like, just wanted to. He caught me. He's trying to let him know. I can do it back as well. Like.
It unravelled for Roy in the fourth round. You well and truly got on top of him, and the first shot that really seemed to hurt him was the uppercut, and it was similar to the one that decapitated Kotlebe.
Yeah, a bit different it was. I think with the Kotlebe, it was a double jab, right uppercut. And I think with the Roy one, it was one of my... I knocked Mackenzie out with the same shot, but with the opposite hand. I touched with the right, and I lifted the left up. But this time, I touched with the left and lifted the right up. I was always one of them lucky fighters. I can throw any punch in the box, and I can hurt you with any punch in the box. So as soon as I landed that shot, I caught him a few times, and I was trying it a bit, but this was the one I actually got through, and I felt I seen him go straight away. Like.
It wasn't. I know you say you saw him go straight away, Enz, but it wasn't all guns blazing after that. You probably could have been forgiven if you went all guns blazing, but you moved him to the ropes, rattled off a quick flurry. There wasn't a lot in the punches. I guess they were just to distract him from that big finishing shot.
Yeah, and again, some of the things over the years, everyone knows I can punch. Everyone knows if I land, pretty much it's over. So I've always just worked on just using shots to distract. Like the first one, the tap left out was just a distraction to throw the uppercut, and then obviously he's expecting me now to go for the finish, which I did. But like you said, set them shots up, and I think it's something I've seen him do in years gone by. Those little 2, 3, 4 taps. Sets her up, lifts the hands up, or brings the hands down, whichever way you want to do it. And I sort of throw 4 straight. When you go from 4 straight, and I think I brought this straight up the middle. So you come different angles, different directions, and just different levels. He's expecting a straight shot, and then he's coming up the top. So it was just all a distraction. Caught him the uppercut, head lifted up, and my natural instinct is just throw them other ones as well. And I caught him the overhand right then as well.
It was a bad knockout, and your cutsman Bob Plant was the first in the ring. He ran over to help Roy get his gum shield out of his mouth. That was a touch of class from Bob.
Yeah, Bob's brilliant. Bob's brilliant, and I wish Bob had been with us a lot earlier. And I remember him going down, and I went in the corner. I went to the knee. I said a sign across, and people always think I done actually with Roy Jones. I done that in every fight I've had. A youngster, I remember knocking a kid out in the junior ABA's prelims, boy from Manchester. I knocked him spark cold in 35 seconds. I literally just sat in the corner at the age of 13, sat on one knee in the corner, went down on one knee in the corner, and just waited for him to recover. That's always been my way. Yes, it looks like I'm trying to hurt people, but I don't want to injure anyone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just for the 10 seconds that the referee counts you want them down for.
Yeah. So I'm in that corner now. I see Bob. I see the Russian corner crew. They haven't got a clue. And next thing, I see this hand, and I see this hand creeping into the ring. And lo and behold, it's Alex Hughes. Alex Hughes has only robbed Roy Jones's gum shield. It was unbelievable.
Alex told me about his big reveal of the gum shield in the dressing room. I didn't realise that you'd seen it happen in the ring.
Yeah, I seen the hand go in, and I remember looking at it, and I think, what are you doing? It was like, have you seen the film Bloodsport?
No, I need to watch it after this though.
It's a film of Bloodsport, and the guy's cleaning the ring, and someone's dropped the gold tooth. Someone's had a gold tooth knocked out, and he's looking around and he pinches the tooth. It just reminded me of that there and then. I think, what are you doing, man? Just not a bad artifact to keep, is it?
No, well, you can take the boy out of Marty. You can't take Marty out of the boy.
Something like that.
Suddenly, Roy's flat in his face ends. Thousands of fans at the arena are silent, and there was a really good attendance there on the night. Most of your team had been briefed to stay respectful, but the one member of your team who didn't remember the brief was Alex Hughes, and he celebrated.
Yeah, I heard him as well. Yes.
It was impossible not to, wasn't it? It was so quiet, like instantly.
It did. It literally. And to be honest, when I first boxed in Russia, the first time it was like no atmosphere whatsoever. This time it was.
Yeah.
It was quite good, and it just literally went silent. And Alex, yes. And I think Zach had to pull it down. Alex, what are you doing, man? So it was like it was just mad, mate. And we obviously made sure Roy was all right. We'd done the celebration, me winning. Walk back to the. But as it happens, Frank Warren sent Francis a text. He said, "Oh my God!" He said, "Get out there now." He said, he did put laughing emojis. What little did I know what was to come.
So you go back to the changing room, and you're with your coach Gary, Bob Plant, Alex Hughes, Zach Davis, Liam Williams was over there with you, and Francis Warren. You must have been bouncing for the short time that you were alone in private.
Yeah, we went back to the changing room, and it was mad. So all the boys were chuffed and bits and that. Then, have you ever seen the old film Showdown in Little Tokyo?
Yeah.
Right, you know the guy who's the main baddie cuts the girl's head off?
Yeah.
He was there, and he came in the changing room after, give me a hug. I recognised him instantly. He was obviously a lot older. I recognised him instantly. I was having a good chat with him and things like that. And just all the boys just celebrating.
Tell me about the little knock on the door of the changing rooms. It was described to me from people who were there as almost taking the hinges off the door frame.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I knocked it, the doors flew open. The doors flew open. These 3 or 4 big guys walked in, and it was a camera boy in it. And those TV cameras must be about $50,000, something like that. They just pick him up and fling him out the way. The camera smashes everywhere. We all looked at each other going, oh my God. Like, so Liam Williams has smashed the bottle behind his back, thinking, if Enzo's in now, I'm in with Enzo. Fair play to Liam. Alex turns to Zach and says, "Oh, Alex, man, I think I'll wait outside." So next thing, he goes, "Right, you come with us now." And I went, "No." He said, "Come with us now." So I said, "No." He said, "Now." So the tone changed then. So me and Francis Warren walking up this corridor now with these 3 or 4 guys. And I spoke to the other one before. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Come on, you don't know what's going on." He said, "I don't know." So Francis stops. He said, "Look, Enzo, we shouldn't be doing this." I said, "Well, we haven't got much choice now, have we?" So we walked down this corridor now, and I swear to God, I'm looking now, see if he puts his hand in his pocket, see if he pulls out a knife or a gun or something like that. As soon as his hand goes in his pocket, I'm going to fucking bang him and run. Where I'm going to run to, I don't know. But that was my instinct, it was just to bang him and run. So we get to Roy's changing room. And I see Roy sitting down, so obviously I thought, I'll go over and just see how Roy is. Let Francis I have a chat with Roy, and I see them all shouting. I see them all shouting at each other, and Francis trying to calm it down. And I'm still talking to Roy, but I'm looking up to see what's going on. To cut a long story short, that Vlad was so confident in Roy beating me. He told them I was, how would I put it, 100% losing that fight. So I think they lost a lot of money.
The Vlad you mentioned there was Vlad Hernov, the promoter. The people he'd been working with were called the Night Wolves, and they're a motorcycle club that have open and official links with the Kremlin. They're involved in a lot of boxing events in Russia. Tell me how that conversation went for you.
So they were screaming and shouting and trying to make out Francis betrayed them and things like that. And I remember Francis, I listened to Francis, and Francis was shitting himself, as we all were. You can imagine. And Francis went out. He said, "Look," he said, "we don't do that sort of thing." He said, "Enzo doesn't do that sort of thing. If Enzo does that sort of thing, we wouldn't be here with him." He said, "Then I look like a man who was supposed to lose." He said, all the way in, he told you all he was knocking him out. And so, in fairness, Francis was brilliant, and they bought that, and they sort of let us go.
In the time that you and Francis had been taken down the corridor, and before you'd returned, the boys had been told there was probably half jokingly, that there was a good chance they weren't coming home. They must have been relieved when you walked back in that changing room, Enz.
Yeah, I think the words were Alex who saying, "Oh my God, what do you think is going to happen?" And Gary calmly replied, "They're going to be fed to the pigs out." Oh man, it was bonkers. But I will say the guys in the Nightwolves, the 2 or 3 I was actually talking to, they treated me well, and I think, to cut the long story short, I think they were more concerned with Vlad than they were with me and Francis. We went back to the hotel. We were supposed to leave Sunday, 5 o'clock in the evening. Francis phoned the Sports Network office, I think it was at the time, to change our flights for 5 o'clock Sunday morning. So we're in the hotel now, and Alex and Zach and all them, they're all getting happy on the champagne, all on Vlad's bill, champagne and cheesecake, and I'm thinking to myself, right, I'm gonna have 1 pint, and that's it. So if he can, I've run it. Just drinking all night. We have the car come to pick us up. At this point, Alex is totally intoxicated. He can't walk. He's sleeping. I sort of guess the limo. I put Alex in the limo next to Zach, Gary and Liam behind, and Francis. I'm in the front. And we drive to the airport. So the car's swinging everywhere. Next thing, all you heard is Alex. I said, "Oh no." So all you hear then is Zach or Alex, man, you screwed on my jeans. I got this plastic bag. There's a plastic bag in front of me, and I turned around and I said, "Alex, man, spewing ya." She spews up everywhere. "Oh, thanks, Enz." But as he spewed in a bag, he chucked the bag behind him, right? And all the faces and clothes, and it was covered. And as we pulled into the airport, he turned the corner, and you could hear the sink swish across the floor. It was everywhere. So, guest out of the car. The Russian cab driver or limo driver, he starts screaming, and all you see, I was just hysterical. I was. All you see is Alex. "Oh, sorry, but." But it was mad, man. They pulled the cases out, and Gary's case had sick in it. Liam's jacket had sick in it. Liam was fuming. Francis Warren's gone, "Oh, boys, he's only young man, forgive him." Next thing, they pull Francis' suit bag out there. Oh, it was covered. "I'm gonna kill him." It was bonkers, mate.
Sounds like a scene from Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, it was bonkers, mate. It was absolutely bonkers. Walks in the airport, they're all filming with Alex. I'm the only one who didn't have nothing on his case, so I wouldn't have cared anyway. He's a young kid, so yeah, no. And I said to Alex, "You better change, boy." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, you better change." I said, "You're not going to let anyone on the plane." He said, "How am I going to change?" He said, "Well, go in your case, get some clothes out, chuck your other clothes in the bin, go behind that pillar over there, and just chuck them in the bin and get changed." All right. I turned over to talk to Gary. I turned back. There's Alex, middle of Moscow airport, pretty much bollock naked in just a pair of Batman pants. What a childish get. So as we go through the airport now, all the guys who do the passport control and the security, they had, you knocked Roy Jones out. They all left the positions in the airport. They all left their positions in the airport and started having photos of me and things like that. So all the security, everyone just walking through the security, no one cared. So next thing, Francis Warren has a phone call. She has a phone call, and he said, this is the surgeon. I don't want to ask why the surgeon, I don't know.
So the surgeon is a man called Alexander Zaldistanov, and he's the leader of the Night Wolves. If you've ever seen pictures of him, he's usually in biker leathers, heavily tattooed, and he looks like a bit of a unit. So he's received awards from President Putin for his involvement in their conflict with Ukraine in the Crimea. Did you have any idea how serious these people were and how close a shave you'd had?
Yeah, and to be honest, they treated me well. You know, I didn't actually meet. Yeah, I did meet the surgeon, but I used to speak to a couple of them. He's a big boxing fan, and in fairness, they do a lot for charity as well. So I'm told, and they did treat me well. I spoke to them quite a bit, and you know, I can imagine them being a bit pissed off if Vlad has told them something different.
Yeah.
But like I said, mate, apart from that, 5-10 minutes, which felt like 10 days. It was all right. It was all right. They treated me well out there. They looked after me.
And if they offered you the chance to go back, I guess that's what the surgeon was phoning Francis about before you boarded the plane to come home.
He's telling Francis, he said, look, no matter what happened, he said, the Russian public loved Enzo. You know, he spent time with him as he walked back to the ring, the press conference, the public workout. He said they absolutely loved him. We'd love him to come back out here again. He can have the same money and fight nobody. He's just the thing. So Francis is looking at me now, and he's, you know, he got money signs in his hands, and I whisper the words to him, fuck off.
I don't know if you know this, but a month later, it was reported by Boxing Scene that Vlad Hernov was found battered by more than one person in a late-night attack, and he was hospitalized. There's no evidence at all that it's linked to anything, like losing millions of dollars of someone else's money, for example. But if it was, do you feel any guilt?
No, not at all. If you've done that, if you've tried to do that, tried to pull a fast one, you deserve what you get, don't it?
And that's the story of when Enzo Maccarinelli went to Moscow, upset the plans of some serious Russian power brokers, and added another chapter to his career. It goes without saying that while this interview was light-hearted in parts, the actions of Vladimir Putin's Russia have been a very serious matter in the time since this interview was first recorded and released 2 years ago. Our thoughts remain with Ukraine and all the innocent people affected by Russia's illegal war. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to share it with your friends, your family, any boxing fans you may know, and anyone else who might be interested. A special thank you to Enzo for sharing a remarkable story with me. I hope this podcast has done it justice. To stay updated on all of the events happening in Welsh boxing, please follow KO Cymru on all social media platforms, visit our website kocymru.com and subscribe to our regular newsletter. Thank you for listening.